Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Day 2, NFL Palooza. Yes. I'm going to wait till 3:20 to talk about Marcus Mariota because that was the left turn that I was surprised by today.
The first one I went,
First surprise.
All right, guys.
Yeah, first surprise. At 4 o'clock, I want to go through all of them. And hopefully by then we may have a left tackle or a corner because I still think that those are two things that haven't happened yet.
Agreed.
And so I'm waiting to see what happens there with those two. So we'll give it an hour because as we went off the air, Austin Eckler hadn't happened, the new kicker hadn't happened, the new guard hadn't happened. Mm-hmm. And then this morning, Cleveland Farrell didn't happen yet.
Yep.
Well, that happened today.
Yeah.
And then, so that wasn't a surprise. And then Marcus Mariota was the first total left turn that I was surprised by. And now everybody's trying to figure out what it means. And we'll try to do that too, because I'm not totally sure. Other than I just will say this up front. You know, he worked with Brian Johnson last year.
Right.
So just remember that part of it. And it was logical we were going to get a veteran backup in here one way or the other.
Sure. Yeah.
So just, before everybody decide Sam's gone or Sam's staying, because I think that's what the issue is here. They didn't sign him, obviously, to be the starter. So so we'll get into all that. Let's just do the news of what's going around.
Are you dead to him?
Who's that?
Like the
I'm dead to Sam. I'm dead to
the
you.
Tiki comment.
Oh, I'm going to talk about that too later. What is wrong with you, dude?
He apparently.
What is wrong with you?
Apparently, it was kind of out of context. He was talking about it on the air and did it as a haha, you're dead to me now, Saquon. And then somebody aggregated it, and then Saquon said, don't ever smile around me, which I was like, whoa.
Okay, because it didn't make sense. Tiki Barber is not viral because he doesn't do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
He's very good on the air, but he doesn't do that type of stuff where he
Yeah.
says something that's preposterous. That guy wanted to stay there.
Yeah.
He made that so clear for a couple of years, and the Giants, for some reason, pulled a hard line on him, which I don't understand.
Right. Which the fans, too, are overreacting at him, too. I saw so many comments yesterday of, well, it didn't have to be with the Eagles. They were giving him top-line money and they're Super Bowl contenders. What did you want him to do?
And he likes living in the area.
Yeah, he grew up in Jersey. It's the shortest move he could have made.
I bet if Houston gave him more, he probably would have gone there.
Yeah.
It had to be more.
Right.
And then, so anything even close, he wanted to stay regionally, so it actually makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it's your fault. You could have signed him for multiple years. Dummies.
That's right. Yes. Anyways.
But then for them to turn around and do the trade to Burns, which let me start there, actually.
Okay.
Because that happened after the show last night. Carolina ends up trading Brian Burns for a second and a fifth round pick.
It's laughable.
So there's two, when I say I don't know what the Giants are doing, I really don't know what Carolina's doing.
Not a thought behind those eyes.
They are, you need to, if this is Pepe Sylvia, you're going to have to go in front of the whiteboard and explain to me what you're doing.
Stepper with the string.
Unbelievable. So he must have told them he's not going to sign a long-term deal.
Must have, yeah.
He must have told them that. And so 2 years ago, they could have got 2 first-round picks for him, which is the time to, if you're not going to, we learned this with Kirk.
Yeah.
If you're not going to sign the guy, you have to trade him in advance to get the value for him. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
Then they played the string out with him for no good reason whatsoever, even though they clearly valued him and wanted to keep him. Then they franchised him and gave him no massive deal. And I said on Friday, the first people I'd actually call is them. What's the price to get him? Because if I'm going to take a swing on something, I'd take a swing on him. Now, this group, the Commanders, and you'll notice by all of the signings that they made, none of them are, let's try to hit one out of the park, which is what a Brian Burns signing would be, if you are going to make the deal. But if you told me we could get him for a second or fifth round pick, which is why on Friday I said I'd call them and see what it is, because if they're not asking for anything nuts, and they weren't, or if they couldn't get it, then I actually want to have that conversation. I don't think this group was ready to go throw $150 million at somebody, especially 5 months after trading Montez Sweat for less than that. They could have signed Montez Sweat for 90, not 150, which is what he ends up getting with the Giants. So, do the Giants know what they're doing? They have a heck of a tandem on the edge now with Thibodeau and him. That is a heck of a tandem, and with Dexter Lawrence, that's a pretty good defensive line. What's behind him still doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially allowing Xavier McKinney to walk. But now that they let him walk because he got top dollar, makes more sense that they were throwing their money at Burns.
Yes.
So they value that position more than they value safety. I agree with that, actually.
So do I.
I agree with that.
Their plan actually clarified a little bit with that trade.
When McKinney left, I'm like, what? Why don't you want to pay him? Or Barkley left, why don't you want to pay him? Well, they just got the best player available in all of this that was available, him or Wilkins, your choice, of impact, turn it around, major impact player, and he's young. He's only 24, 25 years old. He's young. So they get him, they pair him with Thibodeau. They got Lawrence, too. That's a heck of a pass rush now. What's behind it still is problematic. Adoree Jackson did not pan out when they paid him. Their safeties are very much in question now, especially with McKinney gone. Their linebackers are no great shakes. So behind the front is still very problematic, in my opinion. Unless Deonte Banks turns into a really good player. He was first-round pick last year.
Yep.
Unless he turns into a really good player. It's tough to sell their defense is a lot better than it was, but it's certainly better, obviously, with him. And then on offense, I'll go back to Burns in a second. On offense, they did sign John Runyon. They did just sign a tackle, which now screams that Evan Neal's going to move into guard. So suddenly you've got Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, John Michael Schmitz, and Runyon with a tackle who's an average tackle, but that suddenly looks pretty good.
Yep.
All of a sudden, that actually suddenly looks pretty good if they can be healthy. They weren't healthy last year. They let Saquon go and replaced him with Devin Singletary. So again, what's behind that is problematic. Who are the receivers you're scared of? Waller may or may not play. You're not scared of the running game, and you're certainly not scared of dimes.
Yep.
They have a very good defensive line and a scary edge rush, and they have what looks to be the makings for the first time in a while of a very good offensive line with front-end talent and first-round and second-round picks up there. But what's behind both of them still has a lot left to be desired.
They are doing a classic, without saying it, they're doing a classic reset, reboot, whatever you want to call it, I think.
They're doing the build from the middle, too, thing. The idea of we're going to build up our offensive and defensive line, and that's going to keep us in games.
Correct, exactly. And what this is doing, though, is they've already started it, because if they didn't want the whole they're done with Daniel Jones thing to be out there, it wouldn't be out there. But it's prominently out there. Eisen said it was his number one thing he heard, right? He doesn't just know that because it's a thing. He knows it because they're saying it out loud to a lot of people, and it's getting back to Rich, right? So I think what they're doing is they're kind of priming their fan base to go, we're going to invest in some pieces that aren't exciting to you, like defensive linemen and offensive linemen and a linebacker.
Well, Burns should be to them.
For sure.
Burns is, in my opinion, the best pickup that anybody's made in the first couple of days.
But either way, still trading for a linebacker and then paying
I don't think
him.
they're ready to win, but I believe he's one of the few total impact players outside of Kirk, obviously.
Yeah. Right. But what they're saying is trading and then signing for a linebacker isn't sexy these days. So I think what they're doing, though, is it's a classic. We're just kind of setting our fan base up in a way of, if we go 8-9 next year and dime sucks, don't worry. We're going to hit the reset button on that, and we're going to get somebody.
This is the Ron. The roster will be ready, and we'll plug a quarterback in.
Correct.
That doesn't absolve them from this is what Jones is their Wentz.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
This is their, we're going to go all in on somebody. Everybody's going, what are you doing?
Yep, right.
He's fine, but he's not that. He's probably a backup, right? But you paid him like a frontline starter.
That's right.
What are you doing? Now they're kind of stuck with him for a year. So that still doesn't make any sense as to why to let Barkley go. That still doesn't make any sense to me.
You're using that money to invest it on everything else.
Okay, but I mean, again, all right, so they're paying Lawrence, they're going to have to pay Thibodeau, they are paying Burns.
Yep.
They were stuck with dimes for a year.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
paid some offensive
linemen. They paid Runyon, but the other guys are all on rookie deals. So they're going to have to pay Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas is coming up soon. He was same draft class as Chase Young, so he's coming up soon, and they're going to have to pay him. But that's it.
Saquon, though, is what?
That's it. They didn't pay McKinney. Jackson, they'll get out of that contract. That's it. That's the only people with big contracts.
Saquon's played, 7 seasons, though?
Something like that.
He's got 2 good ones left. And so I see it here. I'm just saying, I see it. It might not
be. But they're weaker. You cannot. I'll stick with what I said yesterday. They got Devin Singletary for half the price, and he's maybe 25% as good.
Fine.
Period.
I'll agree with you that. But either
Saquon
way,
Barkley is a difference-making player. Devin Singletary isn't.
They're not.
Period.
They're not winning a Super Bowl next year, though. So you're wasting one of those good years, anyways. I see the logic here to walk away.
Then
from
you
the
trade Saquon Barkley.
Well,
then you trade him.
They didn't think they'd suck last year either.
They came. What happened to them is what happened to Rivera first year. They got to the playoffs ahead of schedule.
Right. Correct. Exactly.
And it fooled them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I knew it.
Well, they won a game, too. I mean, don't
they
discount
won a
that.
game
They won a playoff game on the
but
road.
It fooled them into believing they were a lot closer than they were.
Correct. Yep.
And they went all in on Jones, which even after that season, I went, that's a mistake, guys. Don't do it. I know this is a hard thing to do, but you got to move on now. You got to trade him or something. You can't pay him that. If he's willing to take a lower deal, well, then you take a shot on it.
Right.
When you pay him that, you get yourself in trouble, and they already have buyer's remorse. So they're trying to figure it out. So that's the Giants. They also, the flyer they're taking is they signed Drew Lock.
Yep.
That's good pickup as a backup.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because if Jones flames out, you could put Lock in Bridget.
Yep.
He's probably not their long-term solution, but he's there. Well, what if he's our Baker Mayfield?
Well, yeah, I was
right.
Gonna say,
they could sell that. Minnesota's selling that with Darnold today. What if he's our Baker Mayfield and he gets his career turned around here?
I'm not buying Darnold, but with Locke,
neither am I.
Locke is reminds me of Heineke. He's a spark plug. It eventually burns out. You don't know when it's going to burn out. He could spot start for you here and there probably, but I don't see it, right, to be a long-term starter. Darnold
he will period play a little bit though this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Darnold though, I'm not buying at all. I'm not being fooled by the Mitch car wash tour again. He's the same guy as Mitch. Mitch still sucked after staying in Buffalo for a year. I'm good on the whole Darnold thing, so I'm out on Darnold. But Locke I'll buy because he's a spark plug. He's never been amazing and been this crazy good prospect.
No. Okay. So Carolina, y'all are nuts. They spent an exorbitant amount of money on guards. Mm-hmm. Exorbitant. So now I know why. They don't think Bryce Young's going to be able to throw the ball all over the place.
Right. Correct.
So they're going to be a rush offense. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're going to do that, then you really need a good defense. And they've weakened it significantly. Brian Burns, if you don't want to pay him, who do you want to pay? I say this about these star players. If you don't want to pay him, who do you want to pay?
Who do you want to pay? Yep.
Who do you want to pay? Frankie Louvu's here now, so they didn't retain him. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Chin will probably be gone soon too. So their defense, which actually wasn't bad, because they actually have good players on that side of the ball. They got lost. Their offense was so terrible last year.
Horn was hurt last year, right?
Horn was hurt. Yeah. Horn was hurt. Bryce Young was not ready for prime time. Their offense didn't have a lot of weapons anyway, and they had a bad coaching situation, and their owner's crazy, right? So
understatement, but yeah.
Right. So everything spiraled on them. But their defense actually really wasn't that bad, and talent-wise, it wasn't that bad. But they're now stripping that down.
Yeah.
So while they're trying to change who they are, they hire this new coach who it's so clear as day that they're making a pitch of, we got to baby step Bryce along, which means we have to have a good run game here. And also, and I've heard this a lot from people, and people said this about Howell last year, that we need to be stouter in the middle because the pocket needs to be better because he's short. Not that he's short, but for NFL standards, he is.
Yep.
Therefore, the pocket needs to be cleaner for a longer period of time to give him throwing lanes to see through. And Bryce Young is height challenged.
Yep.
So there's part of that too. They need to give him, he's not going to run all over the place. So they need to give him cleaner pockets. So I understand, I think they overpaid for the guys that they got. But, maybe there's this old adage of, and I've never totally believed this, but considering what's been going on with them, what their record was, how bad they've been, and they don't look like they know what they're doing, and they keep firing people all the time, that's probably not attractive to high-profile free agents. But those high-profile free agents will, in the end, always go to the place that offers them the most money. So they overpaid for Robert Hunt because they had to. It wasn't like that guy wasn't going to have a market. They probably overpaid for Damian Lewis, too, because they had to. But they have determined that they need to have a stout middle of their line. And I actually understand that thinking, not much else.
Right.
But I understand that thinking, that they go, we need to run the ball more because we have to, because our quarterback is incapable. We don't of passing yet. Doesn't mean he can't be, but, give Canales a year with him to learn the offense, and then maybe we'll open it up more. But for at least a year, we have to run the ball more, and period, we need to have better pockets for him because he's short. They don't have a lot of weapons to go with him, so that's what they're thinking. The other side of the ball is where I'm like, that's where your talent is, and you're stripping it away because you don't want to pay them. So I get what they're thinking on offense. I do not at all get what they're thinking on defense. And to trade Brian Burns for what they traded for is beyond egg on the face.
Right.
Like, how that's all you got for him is stupid. I actually almost would rather just franchise him
right.
and play it out.
Yep.
Even like it just what's he going to do? Not play? So they look really crazy again.
No, absolutely. And I mean, look, on your front too of paying some of those guys, you got to get morale up somehow. So at least the players that are there going, all right, we're spending in free agency, we're getting some new blood in here.
The locker room is not going to like Brian Burns, who they know is their best player, gone.
Yeah, no,
they're not going to like that
for sure. But
and whoever that 5th round pick is will not be him.
Yeah, right.
That never goes over well. Listen, when this team, less Chase Young, but more Montez Sweat. The second we traded him, it did change the locker room.
Yeah.
They were aware that we gave away a really good player. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we might have gotten pretty good value for him, and this ownership group, it wasn't the right time for this ownership group to make a decision about, an extension, and they may regret that, because if Dorrance Armstrong produces the same way Montez Sweat did, well, then they just saved a lot of money.
That's right.
If he doesn't, and Montez Sweat turns into a 15-sack-a-year player, we may regret that,
Sure.
But we didn't pay the same price as they did. In this case, he's their best player. He's young. That typically doesn't go over very well. And I can just tell you from experience last fall, things were already spiraling, which is why we did what we did at the trade deadline anyway. But it didn't help in the locker room when things weren't going well. And then all of a sudden, 2 of your best players, and certainly one who is obviously one of your best players, is now just gone. It doesn't help. So let's see how they circle those wagons down there.
Right.
Let's see, who else? Derrick Henry to Baltimore.
Oh, my gosh.
So this is, again, I want to replicate the Niners, the Eagles, and the Ravens. Nobody circles the wagons in these off seasons with deals where you go, I can't believe they got that person.
Yep,
the
right.
Eagles did it yesterday. Mm-hmm. Off of the crazy year that they had, they did it yesterday. I still think that they're a big question mark in general because of the way that they functioned last year. And I don't love their setup with their head coach not seemingly being empowered to do anything. Seems very weird.
Sure.
But they didn't have a problem going out and fixing the holes. They upgraded at running back. I think he's an outstanding player. I thought Bryce Huff was the best free agent pass rusher available. Is he that much better than Reddick or Sweat? They obviously think so because they're trying to trade Sweat. I actually saw he put up something on Instagram saying goodbye. Mm-hmm. So there must be something in the works. I don't know what. If Brian Burns got a 2nd and 5th round pick, what are you getting for Josh Sweat? A 5th just to move off of the contract, right. I guess. I also think he's a pretty good player. So I think someone's going to get a pretty good player out of him. And then the Ravens go and turn around and do this. And they went from Gus Edwards to Derrick Henry.
Right. Well, and also Mitchell. It's really going to be a thunder and lightning situation. Yes. Mitchell and him is devastating to have.
The weirdest part is J.K. Dobbins could have been a star there, too. He just keeps getting hurt.
Yeah, that's right.
Just keeps
exactly.
getting hurt.
Yeah, right.
But now they get Derrick Henry. So who was it up in Baltimore who said, I bet when we get to the playoffs, we won't run the ball 3 times again?
My guy, Cordell Woodland, he does a lot of stuff with 105.7 The Fan, but he's actually, funny enough, he's a Commanders fan, but he works up there. And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Derrick Henry is not getting 3 carries in a playoff game.
I would hope not.
That's not going to be the number.
Monken gets left on the tarmac if that happens again next year.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a heck of a pickup for them. Yeah. Even if it's just for a couple of years, and that you're cycling through running backs, and they cycle through them. As a lead back, and they're a team that has this penchant for getting leads on people.
Correct, yes.
Good luck coming back against them when he's running the ball 10 to 15 times in the second half. If I'm them, I wouldn't even bother giving him a heavy load in the first half. Try to get a lead through Lamar, through the other backs, and then you just suffocate people with him in the second half.
Well, I think what's going to happen more so, actually, is we saw it in the second half last year. Hollywood Brown really took off. He was good in the first half, but then he was great in the second half, especially
Hollywood Brown? He doesn't play for them. Say Flowers.
Flowers. Sorry. I got the young wide receivers flipped around.
I heard Hollywood Brown to here is a possibility.
I wouldn't mind that.
Speed receiver.
Yeah, and Kurt got to replace Curtis.
We need a third receiver. That hasn't happened yet either. Right. That may be second wave. That's another one we should watch today, a third receiver.
For sure. But with Flowers, sorry, I misspoke there. But with Flowers, too, he was really good the second half there. And so everyone's also saying is, what are you going to do when Henry is in the backfield and you have your defense stuck in a nickel package and then he's left wide open one-on-one with Flowers? It's a disastrous from a lineup perspective playing Baltimore's offense now, because do you throw that linebacker on the field? Well, guess what everyone else does now? They go hurry up when they have you stuck in a certain defensive scheme that they want to keep running plays on. So, yeah, the matchups in Baltimore are going to be a nightmare next year.
Patrick Queen goes to Pittsburgh.
That one. The Saquon one is one.
That's Tomlin tip cap winking at everybody.
I think that one cuts deeper.
Oh, you don't want him? All right.
Yeah, watch this.
Watch this. Nobody does linebackers better than that group.
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
So that's big pickup for them too. Yep. So that's interesting. And is Patrick Queen dead to everybody in Baltimore now? Who knows? Let's find out. I mean, they'd already paid Roquan, so they kind of had no choice here. And I thought we were out on the high-priced linebacker. I like the one we got. Sure. Of all the signings, that's the one I'm actually most excited about of all the ones that we did so far. Darnell Mooney went to the Falcons, so he joins Kirk and Drake London, Kyle Pitts. That's a really good second, third option. Yep. I think it's a little pricey, but they needed that second option. I think he's a very good player. He's he's a tier above average receiver, tier above. And so I think, good move for them. Jameis goes to the Browns.
Yeah.
So I guess Flacco's gone.
No Flacco, hon. Where's he going?
I wonder if Cleveland's disappointed today about that one. I thought he was going to. I thought for sure
he wanted to come back.
How's he going to do that now? Jameis and Deshaun, it's not happening.
I know, but I don't. He said he wanted to, so I guess Cleveland didn't want him back.
They didn't want him back, or he asked for real money. I bet he probably asked for.
Could have been the opposite too.
Probably asked for 10 to 12 million.
Would you put it past Deshaun to say I don't want him back? Because I wouldn't.
Maybe
because he was more beloved, Flacco.
I mean, because they have their development quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson,
right.
so Flacco's not coming back now. Like that's over. So he didn't like how Flacco took over the town.
I think so. I think that's my theory. What it is? That's my tinfoil hat theory. Not purporting anything, but I just think Deshaun's the type to go. I don't really want him, and I'm the one making all the guaranteed money here. Don't bring him back.
Tyrod to Jets.
That's a smart one for them. I mean,
it is. He gets hurt every time, though.
Well, it's funny with him, though. He doesn't have to move.
Right.
So same facility.
That might have been part of it. He's like, all right, fine.
Because I thought, I didn't mention it, but I thought before Mariota happened, I thought he was a possibility here. Like he,
Tyrod.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I thought that would have been a solid fit here. But yeah, he doesn't even have to move. He just goes to the other side of the building.
Brissett, as predicted to New England.
Yep.
Might be the starter.
Yep. Exactly.
For a year.
Yep.
They figure to draft a quarterback at 3, whether it's May or McCarthy, but everyone keeps saying, like, those guys should be on ice for a year.
Yeah,
so maybe that is what they're going to do.
That's what I said.
Brissett's going to start. Mm-hmm. I actually texted a buddy of mine who works for the Patriots. I'm like, you're going to love this dude. I'm like, great teammate, good dude, goes along with the program, and can play a little bit.
Yep.
You know, like, so, like, I think you're gonna really, really. I told him you're gonna love Gibson too. He's like, you guys need to figure out how to use him, and I'm rooting for him for you guys to figure out how to use him. Mixon got traded from Cincinnati to Houston.
That was a weird one because he was gonna get cut and then he got traded. So,
well, that's how you handle your assets.
Sure.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And let's see. Oh, this came late. Darnold to Minnesota.
Yep.
So that turned out to be true. Mm-hmm. That after they lost Kirk, they turned to Darnold quickly, who, as of right now, would be the starter, but I don't think they're done here. Let's keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson literally said on a podcast, and it's on video, him saying, go get Justin Fields.
Okay.
I'm telling
How? I mean,
I called this. He's going to ask for a trade soon.
Right.
Very, very, very
soon. I guess if you're the Vikings, though, what's overpaying for Fields now to the Bears? Third rounder? Because
right.
Mac got you a 6th. There's no market for Fields anymore. So
third rounder would be the best they're going to get right now, it seems.
Right. So,
and then you find out from the other teams like the Raiders, are you actually serious?
Right.
Or the team that I'm watching now for him, and I'll get into this later, is Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, who Drew Lock just walked. They got room for another quarterback. Gino's only got 1 year left. They restructure. He's not making a ton of money. Fields is a total bargain in terms of a salary. I don't know. I actually think that's Mike McDaniel just was the coach of a team that had a great defense and a very mobile, unique quarterback. Why not?
I'm still circling Dallas.
Dallas?
I think Jarrah could do it.
I'm looking at Seattle now.
Okay.
That's the one that makes actually a lot of sense to me, where he and Gino can kind of compete with each other. And if he beats him out, he beats him out, and then you're out of the Geno Smith business after this year, and you move on to Fields as your quarterback. And McDaniel has already worked successfully running a defense on a team that had a unique quarterback. Like, this actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Every NFC East team but the Eagles.
I can't have it. What, Fields?
Yeah.
We're taking somebody at 2, I think.
Could trade down?
Could.
I don't think they are.
I don't think they are either, but could. Could.
Actually, I'll throw the Eagles in there too. They need a backup now with no Mariota.
Honestly, off all the weird things that we're saying about Hurts, again, this is the thing about Fields that's totally underrated. His salary on your books is like $2 million, which is the craziest part of why, the Russ thing was so easy because he's a bargain. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So what? It almost costs you nothing to do it. In this case, if you're going to give up a mid-round pick for him, why wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do it? Howie. Watch. Howie. All right, we'll be right back. Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. All right, the Commanders have signed their third now edge rusher since free agency, or the tampering period of free agency opened. None of these things are official until tomorrow, with the exception of Zach Ertz, who did meet with the media today. His signing, because he wasn't under contract, through the league year, it became official, and he met with the media today. Dante Fowler, former Cowboys linebacker edge rusher, is the third former Cowboy now to sign with Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, and company.
Yep.
Third edge rusher now. Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Cleveland Farrell have all signed with the Commanders. If my numbers are right, that's the 9th free agent. Is that right that they've signed? And none of them really have massively large cap hits. So they actually have not really extended their cap room that much, which does leave them room to take a swing at somebody, but I don't know exactly who that would be at this point.
Who am I missing here? I have Farrell from this morning.
Yeah.
Frankie Lavu.
Yeah.
Lavu. Eckler.
Yep.
Dorrance Armstrong.
Yep.
Tyler Biadasz.
Yep.
Nick Allegretti.
Yep.
McManus.
Yep.
Who am I missing?
Marcus Mariota.
Oh, Mariota. Duh. There you go. Yep.
Yeah. It's 9.
Okay.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
So I don't see how many years yet. I'm going to guess 1 to 2, probably. Fowler is someone who's followed Quinn around.
Okay.
And this always made sense that they were going to bring in at least a couple of ex-Cowboys. And considering their cap situation, they can't retain these people. Jordan Lewis is another one as a slot corner that's possibility here.
Yeah.
Of the things that haven't happened yet that I expect to happen soon, left tackle, I don't know who, left tackle, and I think corner. I think they do need to address corner in some way. That could be Jordan Lewis if they think Benjamin St-Juste should go back to the outside. That could be a re-sign with Kendall Fuller, albeit it doesn't seem like they're heading in that direction. Xavier Howard is available. That's a big money deal, but he is available. Stephon Gilmore is available. Could be the fourth Cowboy that comes here if they can get him to do it. It makes a lot of sense to me, too. And then we have not seen a third wide receiver, so I saw the name Hollywood Brown pop up a couple times, and I don't know. We'll see. I think they're going to need another receiver in here as well, assuming that Curtis Samuel's going to end up signing somewhere else.
I think the best part about everyone that they've signed, outside of like Mariota and like McManus at kicker or whatever, is it's not pigeonholing them into having to draft somebody. Like there's enough depth now at pretty much all the positions, minus the ones you just said, corner and linebacker and possibly safety, that they're not going to be forced to take the highest tackle. Like they should. But if there's someone else there on the board, they're not totally out of sorts, essentially.
The problem with tackle the whole time has been, point to me the guy that they should go chase and pay top dollar to.
Right.
Onwedu is off the board now because he stayed in New England. And I said, I went into this going, look, I know they have all this cap room and they could spend like some of these other teams, but the problem is the positions of need that they have don't have the caliber of players that you want to spend that kind of level for. I think they fell into a good spot. They needed a linebacker, and there was a lot of good options at linebacker, and I think they got a very good one, like one that I think has a high-end, outcome for them. Armstrong, to me, I'll go through all this at 4 o'clock, to me is a good player, not a top-tier player, but they also aren't paying him like a top-tier player.
Right.
So the most impressive part of all this is they're not tied to any of these guys beyond a couple of seasons.
Right.
And I think they've paid them adequately. So they're hitting them at the right spot. There's a lot of performance incentives in a lot of these deals, including Armstrong's, and none of them have any real length to them. So none of these deals, and not all of them will work out, obviously, none of them are hard to get out of.
Right.
None of them.
Yep. Right.
And then they're taking a shot on a guy like Eckler, and they're going, does he still have the juice that he had a couple of years ago? Because if he does, we got a deal on him. If he doesn't, well, so after next year, we can cut him, and the dead money is really very small, right? That's what they got. So Dante Fowler, the newest one. The biggest surprise, I think, of the whole couple of days here from the Commanders' point of view, because none of these moves are surprising to me, is Marcus Mariota. So, okay, we are assuming that they're taking a quarterback at 2. I am still of that assumption. Because of that, no matter who it was, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, let's assume Caleb's off the board. I felt like, and Jacoby's leaving, and he did.
Right, yep.
They had to get a veteran. No offense to Sam.
Yep.
Sam is not been in this offense. He's not a veteran, and it is just typical standard practice, especially when you get a rookie quarterback in, that you want somebody who's been around the block. And in the case of Mariota, the connection that makes a lot of sense here is Brian Johnson. I'm going to assume that they leaned on him a lot because Mariota was in Philadelphia last year, didn't play very much because Hurts missed a game, or did he? He went out of a couple of games, if I remember right, because he was dealing with injuries the whole year.
It was like a foot injury or something.
Yeah, I think he played a little bit, not much, if I remember right. And I saw him, what was the year before, in Atlanta when he was their starter, when he played us, and remember we beat him in the rain. Remember that one? And they got an interception at the goal line to win that game at the end. Mariota comes in. So the connection here is Brian Johnson, right? So they must have leaned on him. Do we want him here? I've not heard bad things about him in terms of locker room and like same thing, like he'll be a good teammate and all that stuff. Clearly he's not here to be the starter, but they wanted somebody who's been around the block. And also, and I don't want to understate this because they're about to take a quarterback who's going to be very high pick, who's very highly touted, who's going to get a whirlwind of attention. He went through that.
Yep.
And I think that stuff matters. Like, you want to have somebody around who can keep him grounded a little bit and explain to him all the excitement and stuff that happens when you are a very, very high pick, which he was, when he was of the Tennessee Titans. He was top 10 pick of the Titans back in the day. So from all that part makes sense to me. Now, when I watch him, here's the part, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because I don't think he's a good passer.
Right.
So, and this is why I know he's not going to be the starter here. But as a viable backup, sure. But he's a backup.
Yep.
He's very mobile. He's very good with play fakes and running the ball. Very good at it. And he's very good at what I think would be, if you design up offenses that get defenses off kilter, he's very good at executing all of that stuff. But as a pure passer, he is lacking, which is why he's not a starter in the NFL now. Hasn't been for a long time, and I don't think projects to be. Baker turning his career around, needed to go to the right place, wouldn't surprise me. Darnold, honestly, if he ends up in the right spot, could he be Baker again? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm buying it, but maybe. Could Zach Wilson be that? Maybe. Maybe. I don't see that for him because he's just not that level of a thrower. And I think the book is out on him. So this was a bit of a surprise to me. But for all the other reasons, connection to Johnson, been a high pick and understands what that's like before, and clearly as a backup and being paid like a backup, all of that makes sense to me. And with Kingsbury, he does value mobile quarterbacks. So, he is. That's not his problem either. He's very mobile, extremely good at play fakes, very good at executing designs that are meant to catch defenses off kilter. All that makes sense. But my concern is, if he plays a lot, our passing game is going to go sideways, and, he kind of can't. So him coming in, unlike Drew Lock going to New York, where you go, if Dimes goes sideways, I think they could put him in and maybe survive with him as the backup quarterback. When Darnold went to San Francisco, and I go, if Purdy doesn't work out, well, they might be able to survive. Maybe. I don't feel that way with him. And that's why I'm a bit surprised. I don't think he's of the level to keep it going for you, but for all the other reasons, I understand it. And I felt all along, assuming we're taking a quarterback at 2, we needed to get a veteran presence in the locker room, and he fits that bill to a T.
Yeah, my red flag is still, I know he was with the Eagles last year, and clearly a change of scenery helped. I still go back to that Falcons season, though, where he had the weird leaving thing and just kind of left, and they got to the point where when we watched it on quarterback, he never really
clarified, other than to say he got benched and he had been playing injured, needed to have a procedure done, and it just should have been handled more professionally, I think.
I agree.
I'd like to, I don't know if I get brought up, but I'd like to hear him, because he didn't totally explain it in the series. He just was like, I got benched, I'm not playing anymore, I needed to have this procedure, I wanted to get ahead of it. The team wasn't putting me on IR, so I just bolted. And that's not a professional thing to do, even if I understand his thinking behind some of it.
Not to mention, he was taken off the show, and then they finally did the,
Where you been?
Post game. Essentially,
now we have to fly to Hawaii to see what you've been up to.
Right, which I'm sure the crew was just broken up about. But it was, he never really addressed it. He was just like, I'm enjoying family life with my kid. And I remember you and I came in off of watching that going, oh, this guy just doesn't like football anymore, which is fine.
Yeah.
But then he signed with the Eagles, and it was like, okay, I guess you still want to do this. So that's my only red flag here is
he did go to Philly knowing he'd be the backup.
Correct. Yeah.
And he is coming here. I'm sure even though the starter's not on the roster now, he knows what the score is. But he knows what it is.
Every single guy that we've heard from with this organization since they changed guards, though, has been like, they love football. They love violence on the defensive side of the ball. They want to play up. Like, I'm just saying, this is the first one where I went, This guy was a surprise. This guy doesn't really fit with the new profile, but he's still backup quarterback. And the reports last night too were apparently they were kicking the tires on Darnold too. Yeah. But Darnold went to Minnesota because he knows he can probably start there. And so
until things change, but yes,
of course, he's
got a real shot to start. Right now, he's the starter.
Sure. So I do still look at it as well as for all the people saying, oh well, they drafted Mariota or they got Mariota. Assume they're drafting Daniels. Well, it's still.
I'm not there. I saw this. Well, they got him, and he's a running quarterback.
They ran out Darnold. Darnold's not that. So
no, I think they needed a veteran backup quarterback, and I also think the profile of having been a high pick matters.
Yeah, both of them were high picks.
High pick matters because you're going to understand this. We want somebody who's going to be here to help this person and ground them a little bit.
Yeah.
You're going to know what the score is. Darnold, of course, is going to pick more money and the place where he can start. Yep. Mariota. I don't see him that way anymore. Maybe he doesn't see himself that way anymore because he went to Philadelphia knowing he wasn't going to be this. The only way he was playing is if Hurts got hurt. There's no chance he was going to be the starter. He knows walking in here what his job is. So it'll be interesting to talk to him about all of that because, we don't know who he's tutoring yet.
Right.
And I also agree that I saw a lot of people with the reaction of, well, this means they're taking Daniels. I don't know that yet. I still think it's a toss-up between May and Daniels at this point. I am leaning that I think it's going to be Daniels, but I don't know that for now. And I don't think his signing should signal that. The other big question is how. What does this mean for him?
Right.
So he is making no money, because he's fifth round pick in the third year of his deal. You keep him.
Yep.
You don't have to get rid of him.
Yep.
It also does signal that now that we have our veteran backup quarterback, we could trade him if something materializes. Now that Locke left Seattle, is Seattle looking at Sam Howell? I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco or the Rams are looking at him. Yeah. The Rams specifically who go, so how long Stafford doing this for?
Right.
Fits the profile of a very good pocket quarterback. McVay might like him. Shanahan might like him. Minnesota might like him and go, bring him in here. Tell Darnold he's going to be the starter. We'll let them compete. We'll see how it goes.
Right.
And we'll figure it out with two of them.
Yep.
So did the marketplace change for Hal? Does this mean the Commanders are more apt to trade him? I think yes if they get the right deal, but I don't think they're here to ship him off.
Right.
I think if they don't get the right deal, he comes back and unhappily will be the third quarterback on the team. But this does, now that this piece of business is done, which made a lot of sense to me, get a veteran in here, I think it opens the door for, I think our phones are open, but you got to come with a real offer. And if you do, I think they'd be open to it, but I'm not in any rush to ship him off. I just think it's now more likely than it was a couple days ago.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram Bussey Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Mark Bullock just posted this one. He used to cover the Commanders for The Athletic. He goes, Dante Fowler was once quoted as saying, quote, I'm fine with just playing for Dan Quinn for the rest of my life.
Oh, nice.
So not a surprise then that he signed today.
That's funny.
Former Cowboy, now third defensive lineman pass rusher that Washington has brought in. This is not a good sign for James Smith-Williams, F.A. Obata, or Casey Tuhill, who are all free agents to be. And then Nikki Javala tweeted this, which I thought was pretty good. Washington is back to having 4 former first-round picks on its defensive line. John Allen, Deron Payne, Cleveland Farrell, and Dante Fowler.
That's funny.
Chase Young, by the way, to visit New Orleans, Tennessee, and Carolina.
Yep.
Those are the 3. And to visit. I'll get into that in a little bit.
Yep, right.
Let's see. Capitals lost last night.
That was ugly.
3-0 to the Jets.
Yep.
So the West Coast swing gets off on the wrong foot. And, we keep reiterating, there's not a lot of margin for error for them at this point. And so, tough one. No offense last night.
There was a way to break this one down is that the Jets, I didn't see this yesterday. I just didn't look at it, the schedule. They lost 5-0 their previous game. So their coach lit into them. And they've had a good season. They have 40 wins on the year. So when they lost 5-0, I should have known they were going to come out like gangbusters against the Capitals.
At home.
And Carberry even went as far to say, like, that was the best team they played all year. He said that. So don't be too concerned that it was 3-0. Carberry said it was the best team they played. This road trip wasn't going to go perfect. We already knew that. They have a tough task, though, with back-to-back Edmonton, Seattle tomorrow and Thursday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't a good start, but let's be honest, they're one of the best teams in the league right now.
So I'm happy if they were to win one of those two of the next two. If they get away with a win, even if it's an overtime win over one of them, that'd be great.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. If they can somehow get the record to 2-2 with going into that last game against, I think it's Calgary on Monday night. If you can do that, I feel
what is it they got?
Good.
Edmonton, Seattle, then what?
Then Vancouver. Like not only West Coast, really good teams. Yeah, really good teams. So yeah, we'll see.
Let's see. Congratulations, JMU, into the NCAA tournament as the Sun Belt champion. First time since 2013, so 11 years for them. The Dukes are in. Best college program across the board in Virginia, JMU.
I'd say
their
DMV.
Football program.
DMV.
Maybe.
Who's better than them?
Who's got it
Not
better
Terps.
than us?
Not the
Nobody.
Terps. Not your boy Locks.
I'll go get a house down in Harrisonburg. Go check out the real sports scene down there.
I saw this joke yesterday because everyone's going, "Oh, best college in the DMV," and they're like, "No. Like you never claimed that far down to be the DMV.
Not
so
the DMV.
You don't get to choose that one.
That is not the DMV. That's like the people who tell me Baltimore's part of it.
Correct.
No, it's not.
Right. Exactly.
No, it is not.
Or the people that fold UVA into that. No, it's not the same.
The Georgetown women lost in the Big East final to Connecticut. So,
Yeah.
That's going to happen. But did you see the clip of them announcing in the locker room that the interim coach became the full-time head coach, and the team like swarms him and hugs him? And so I thought that was very cool. They had that was the first time they'd ever been in the Big East tournament final, and now I know why they've never won it. I forgot about UConn, who people are because South Carolina and LSU and all that, and Caitlin Clark have erased so far that UConn was the all-time dynasty of any sport for like the last 25 years, and they beat them.
Correct.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's a story that we enjoy, the media stories. Oh, you'll enjoy this. From Front Office Sports. A large-scale repositioning of regional sports networks by cable and satellite carriers is gathering speed and impact, and it's now involving two of the country's largest media markets. After a short-term extension of a prior carriage agreement with Comcast, the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network completed a new contract with Comcast, the largest cable carrier in the Washington-Baltimore region, which includes the country's number 9 and 29 media markets. But the deal carries a major shift. The Orioles-controlled Masson will move from Comcast's most basic cable tier to a more expensive and less broadly distributed Ultimate TV tier.
Ultimate TV.
The change will mean that those wanting to see the Orioles and the Nats in that region will eventually need to pay an extra $20 per month. I don't have Comcast, so this is not my problem. But for those who do, and there's a lot of you out there, that's what's coming to watch the two baseball teams this year. Comcast is phasing in the switch with a 6-month promotion that offers its, quote, popular TV customers the ability to transition to Ultimate TV for 3 months with no additional charge, with a $10 surcharge for the 4 months, for months 4 through 6. So you could pay $30 for the season if you do it now.
Yeah, right.
Then next season, it'll be $120.
Oof.
Just to keep, you already have your package,
right?
$20 more, and I don't know what else is in Ultimate TV,
right? I'm sure
but everybody's
everybody's
leveraging the sports part of it.
Yeah.
This is the amazing. I go back to this every time when local media markets cut out sports, and I go, you're not covering the things that matter most and garner the most money for your networks. Where is the disconnect between the interest in this stuff and the desire to place like coverage of it? I've never understood this.
Right.
That said, the bottom line of the headline here is that sucks.
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
That sucks.
Yeah. And I was just talking with you before the show. It just got announced today that the New York Liberty, the WNBA team, they're doing the Phoenix deal. They're going over the air for their entire season. That's the future of broadcasting.
I would love to know. It is for sports that don't give massive deals from Amazon, Apple, Google.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But like the massive streaming deals.
I would say the basketball and hockey. Basketball and hockey are probably the two sports. Baseball has too many games to do that.
No, I think the next contract, the NBA is going to be streaming on Amazon. That's what I think.
Okay.
Or Amazon or Apple or whoever.
Right.
And it's going to be a massive contract because there's so much inventory. So I think there's going to – so all those games will be streamable, but you're going to have to pay a package fee to them, is what I think is going to come
Either way,
there.
Phoenix gets to control their regional.
The WNBA is not in that category yet. They don't have it. They're not going to get that kind of deal from Amazon yet, but the NBA will.
But what I'm getting at is you have out in Phoenix, they're doing it for the Suns and the Mercury, that they both are going to be over the air. And I've just said, from a pure investment standpoint, your fans, all of a sudden, you get in front of way more fans because they can just turn on their TV and it's there. Like, don't underestimate that. Even older fans that don't stream things get to turn on and watch all of those games.
Yep.
To me, it's just a long-term investment. They become fans of the team. They buy tickets. They buy jerseys, all of that stuff. I feel like that's the formula that is going to be the one going on to the future, especially as some of the regional actual networks struggle to fill in that content void because so many things are streaming now. Like, you can only have so many reruns of NCIS on Sunday afternoons, right? Like
this goes back to, I saw a lot of people talk about this today, because Rudy Gobert got in trouble for making a money sign at an NBA referee.
Yeah,
and he got fined for it, of course, because you cannot have an insinuation of that.
Yep.
So there are two things, especially in that sport, that they have to deal with right now. They can't have any insinuations of that because if you think it's rigged, then people are going to turn it off, and it's not. But obviously it's not. But the other one, and I think is a bigger, more existential issue, is you got to get them to try for the whole season. Why would I pay $20, $30, $40 a month to watch a sport where the players don't really give a crap about it until after the All-Star break? And now you'll see the games are far more competitive, far more fun to watch. The guys are giving it their all. It's what makes that sport great. It's incredible to watch those stars. But from October until now, they don't care. It's completely obvious that they don't care. They don't even care about marquee things like the All-Star break anymore. Why would I pay somebody $50 a month to watch that? I wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you say that. It's the reason why I actually keep my ESPN Plus subscription in the offseason from the NFL. I get all the NHL games. And I'll happily turn on an NHL game before I'm going to bed just to have it on because I get all of the games. I will happily watch that Avalanche Wild game because I know the Avalanche score 1 million goals and I know what I'm watching. The product is actually good every single night. So.
I mean, we are in a pay-per-view mode now where everything's pay, but we always were. I mean, we were paying for cable packages.
Right.
So now you can pick and choose. It's just going to all end up in these different streaming worlds, and that's where Ted goes, that's why I'm correct, everybody.
Not for just his two teams, though. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Well, I'd love to know the numbers on that.
Yeah, or 3 teams.
I'd love to know the numbers on that. Like, how many subscribers do they really have paying full freight for something like that?
Yeah, no, and they just announced, too, with they're in conjunction with the Spirit, that they're going to get 10 or 11 games. Yeah. So my first reaction was, I already get Paramount Plus, so I already get them all.
Right.
So, I don't know where what we're heading down towards here when we're at the point where you get a deal and I already get it on something else.
What we're heading down is what ESPN and Fox have tried to do so far, which is the sports bundle.
Yeah.
You're going to buy a sports package where you can stream the vast majority of major sports. They probably won't get all of them, but they're trying to get most of them. That's why the leagues are freaked out by it because they're seeing the consolidation and they're going, we're going to charge everybody this amount to get all of it. Like your cable package.
Correct, yeah. You get all these bonus channels.
You're gonna pay. You were already paying $120 a month. You're gonna pay $120 a month, and you get all the games.
Right.
And the leagues are going, we don't want you controlling that anymore. A couple more signings. Devontae Parker to the Eagles. I didn't see any years on that one. Kenny Moore stays in Indianapolis and got a very lucrative deal for a slot corner, 3 years, $30 million. So take him off the board. Corner is a position of interest here with Kendall Fuller out on the free agent market, and I'm surprised he hasn't signed. But then again, neither he, Gilmore, Xavier, and Howard, who are the top of that marketplace, haven't signed with anybody either. So wonder what the weight is on that group.
Right. Yeah.
See what the numbers are.
I feel like not the dominoes are falling, but the outside starting to crumble in a little bit on the corner market.
It is a little. Well, we'll see. Kenny Moore just got. I liked him. He just got a pretty good deal for a slot corner. So let's see what happens. There are 2 other Cowboys that are out there: Jaron Kearse, safety; Jordan Lewis, slot corner. That obviously would make sense now that we've signed our 3rd ex-Cowboy with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, obviously running the defense. Washington did just sign their new long snapper, Tyler Ott, who's a former Raven and Seahawk. Our new special teams coach came from Seattle. He was playing there recently, so that makes sense. 3-year deal. So hopefully, no more shaky snaps for a little while. Hopefully,
we need to do we do the Washington quarterback bit since they won a Super Bowl. We need to go through all of Tress Way's batteries. Like how many kickers and long snappers did he go through? More in between in the last couple of years than anything else.
It was funny. Like I saw a lot of people, I want to go through the Commander signings thus far and just kind of let's do some grades here. Sure. We'll just get some general reaction to it. But like on the special team side, let's just get that part over with. So they bring a long snapper in, obviously necessary. We didn't have one.
Yep.
Off of, unfortunately, Cameron Cheeseman, it flamed out bad.
Yeah, right.
And it was funny, like I saw a lot of people put up the Brandon McManus versus Joey Sly numbers. They're actually very similar. And I'm like, that's true, but Joey Sly watched wobbly snaps come his way. Like that must have been, like, it must have shook him at some point.
Sure.
There was a couple that I blamed the snap on misses that he had because they were so bad.
Right.
And Tress Way really deserved a gold glove this year for what he did for the team to even have a semi-operational battery. It was him.
Right.
He also took the brunt of one of the worst snaps of the year, that punt snap that landed about 3 yards in front of him, and he got walloped. And I was nervous. I remember on the air, I'm like, oh, my God, I think we just lost our Pro Bowl punter because he got hit hard on a bad snap late in the season. Anyway, so we bring in a new snapper. That makes sense. Brady McManus, no range issues with him. He's got a big leg. 9 years Denver, last year Jacksonville. 40 and in, he's been money. 25 to 27 last year. 5 of 10 from 50 plus. So while he's got the leg and the range, the percentage from 50 plus, and it's not great across the league, is about 50-50 with him over the last couple of years. So they gave him, a 1-year deal. We had to get a kicker. Okay.
Yep. Right.
We had to get a kicker. We had to get a long snapper. Okay. This is a veteran, been around the block. Great. I feel bad for Joey Sly. I liked him a lot. I don't see a massive difference here. I will say, though, like going into last year, my concern with Sly was range. He actually answered that question. His leg strength got better at last year. I had no questions about him there. So if they had brought him back, I wouldn't have been surprised. But they bring in McManus, longtime vet. So all's well that ends well.
I'm fine with it. Yep.
Okay. Here's the rest of it. Let's start on defense. 3 edge rushers obviously was necessary with the trades of Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and then throughout the year, underrated was F.A. Obata, James Smith-Williams, Casey Tuhill. All of their contracts were up. So it was 5 of them that were all coming up. Chase, it became very clear to me early, based on health, that I didn't think they would sign him long-term. We would see how the season went first, and it was what it had been. He was semi-effective at times. He was inconsistent for sure. And I do know that, his medicals were going to be prohibitive to giving a real commitment, anything beyond a year or two. So I always thought, if things go sideways, they'll trade him. If things are going well, they'll keep him and play out the year. Obviously, things didn't go well. Montez was a different story. He's a high-level player. His numbers weren't, I think anything what people wanted. They wanted him to become a double-digit sack person. It had not really happened. They also were asking him to do edge contain all the time, so can't have both. Go get the quarterback or go stand over here. Which one do you want, guys? Yeah. So I always thought he was a little hamstrung. I thought he was a very good player. Thought that was a very tough decision to make. And off of the Brian Burns deal, looks like the Bears got a pretty decent number on him now, off of what that number just came out with Burns. So, but the point is they had a massive void, and obviously they had to do something about it. They have filled with 3 players that they know. Dorrance Armstrong is a good player. I'm not sure I'd put him on the level of Sweat, but he might post the similar numbers. 8 sacks a year. Sure. He's reliable, plays a lot. And if you go actually look at the contract that they gave him, the cap number this year is very little. They didn't have to eat much of it. It really only goes up to $9 to $11 million with a lot of incentives. So if he meets those incentives, great, we'll give you the money. And if he doesn't, then the numbers that they're giving him are emblematic of what I think he is. I think it kind of falls in line with what I think he is. He's a pro. He's a good player. He's not game-changing. Yeah. He's not a Bosa. He's not Montez Sweat, for that matter. So I think we need to, temper expectations of what you're going to get from him, albeit it was necessary. With Cleveland Farrell, former top 10 pick, maybe top 5, if I remember right.
Top 4. Yeah, he was 4th overall with the Raiders in 2019.
He never lived up to that.
Yep.
Now, he spent last year in San Francisco, so Adam Peters knows him.
Yep.
They signed him, 1-year deal. Numbers are similarly, they're kind of whatever. He did have a few sacks, but they're kind of whatever. He also was in rotation. He wasn't like he was playing constantly. He was in rotation. They brought in Chase Young. They had Eric Armstead. They had Bosa. So he wasn't out there constantly, but the numbers are they're low. What I've heard about him is, and this is what they want, great teammate, big motor, all of that stuff. And I think it's a 1-year deal. So again, they had to get a good backup. To me, it is an upgrade from Casey Tuhill. I mean, it is. Like, that, it is. Like, so, good. The other one is Dante Fowler. Dante Fowler he'll have 1 or 2 games where he's blowing things up.
Right.
And, is he at an age where he can do it constantly? Probably not. But, we haven't had people that have blown up games off of the edge. We read the quote earlier where I haven't seen how long this is. I'm expecting 1 or 2 years, whatever it may be. Obviously, a lot of familiarity with Quinn. He's followed him around in his career. He's played for him everywhere. Had this quote we read where he said, "I want to play for him the rest of my life." So it makes a lot of sense. Cowboys are cap strapped. They can't keep anybody. All the loose parts are falling out. The change is falling out of the cushions. Right. So they're losing all these guys, whether they want to keep them or not. So 3 new edge rushers. Chase Young, I think, is a different conversation, but I don't think you could count on him to be more than just an average player at this point in his career. Montez, I don't think they got a player that replicates someone of his level here, but they got 3 guys, all pros. Farrell, again, let's limit expectations. Armstrong, definitive starter, but limit expectations. I hope he has 15 sacks. I doubt it. That's not what his career has been. And then with Fowler, I think we've got somebody who on third down might be a menace for us, and we haven't had a third down menace in a long time. We've wanted to have that, but he's a movable part. You can move him around. You can line him up on the line. You can stand him up. You can do things with him, and he's a menace, and there will be a couple games that we're going to be psyched we have him. So all in all, I'll give this B to B+. I'm assuming that the contract for Farrell is going to be low. The contract for Fowler, I don't assume will be high. The Armstrong one, now that I've seen the numbers, are right in line with, I think, what he deserves. Yep. So from a contractual point of view, length of time, money spent, cap room spent, A+. From an impact on the field, B.
Yeah, right.
B. It's not their strength.
Right.
These signings don't make that a strength on their team, but it definitely fortifies it, and it was a humongous void, and it's been filled by veterans, and veterans they know, so I like that.
This is, to me, 2 years worth of filling in holes that they just didn't fill in before for whatever reason.
I liked Smith Williams and Tuhill as backups.
Sure, but they were
backups.
But they were all Tuhill.
I would even argue bring Tuhill back. I love his motor. So he's a rotational guy who plays spot duty. Bring him back.
But what I'm getting at here is Tuhill, wasn't he claimed, right? Wasn't he claimed or
I'm going to go look. Is he on some other team?
No. How they got him in the first place.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think he was claimed to come here, right? What I'm getting at here is, though, with Ron and co., all they ever did was either draft or claim guys in training camp. They never signed these mid-level deals, is what I'm getting at here, is they're filling out the roster.
They did a little bit. They did with Logan.
Only that first year, though. The first year is the only year that they did that.
They did on the line. They did with Gates, with Wiley.
Okay, last
year,
yes,
Norwell, with Turner. They did on the line. They tried it a number of times.
Right, but
in the case of Norwell and Turner, they were...
Those were still scrap heap. Those were super cheap deals.
Those guys were really good 3-4 years ago.
You're right, but they weren't giving them 3 years, $30 million is what I'm saying.
Listen, I'd say this about Fowler, too. His best days are behind him,
of course,
but he can be effective, and there will be games he blows some stuff up.
Right, but I'm getting at is they needed starters. I think this is where the disconnect is here. They needed starters at these positions, and Ron was signing backups. Is what I'm getting at.
Yes,
and
Dorrance Armstrong's a starter.
Yes, exactly.
100%.
You pay a little more, and you get a guy that's a little better.
Farrell is not.
Yes, right, correct.
But
exactly.
he's probably got a 1-year deal.
Correct, yeah,
and he's a really good backup, really good backup.
But
he's a better backup than Casey Tuhill.
Right. Yes. Correct. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is they're not going to sign Farrell and then take a defensive end with their first pick because they need to take it. You know what I mean?
I think the way it's shaping up, that was unlikely anyway, which is why they had to go get 3 of them.
Correct. Yeah. Totally.
Right.
Yes,
and then we'll see how they feel about KJ Henry. We'll see how they feel about Andre Jones. Right. We'll see what that is. I think Henry showed some spark. So I got a feeling he'll be very competitive. And if he ends up, just as it's set up now, if he ends up starting opposite Dorrance Armstrong and Farrell is his backup or rotational piece, at this juncture, wouldn't surprise me. Maybe they're not done shopping. The good news is for all of this, and the bottom line is, I like none of these deals feel out of line.
Correct.
In length and money. None of them.
And getting out
None
of
them.
I'm sure getting out of them
Correct.
is really easy for all of them.
Right. You're signing 9-10 guys. They're not all going to work out.
Yeah.
I take people like the long snapper and the kicker off the board. If the long snapper doesn't work, you just go get another long snapper.
Yeah.
If the kicker somehow is not kicking well, you'll go get another one. But they got veterans here, so it's not like they're taking a shot on anybody. The other guy on defense is Frankie Luvu. Of all of the signings thus far, he is the one I'm most excited about. Clearly, we've needed a linebacker. This is something that is the malpractice of the Ron front office was offensive line and linebacker. I thought they blew it with Cole Holcomb. It made no sense that they didn't just re-sign him, but they didn't. Then they never really replaced him. Or not, again, they went with a backup type player,
to
like
fill in a starter.
Like if Cody Barton was the backup last year, I'd have been like, "That's a great backup that you have." But because he was the starter, then all of a sudden it got exposed that they don't have a high-level starter at the position. Jamin Davis now, he's going to be free to roam. I'll be very interested to see what they do with him. This is a really good signing. He's a very good player. This was the one position of need that if you looked out on the open market and I went, they're going to get a pretty good one here.
Yeah.
And they paid what I think is market value for him. Of all of these other ones, I think they paid market value for Armstrong. But if he ends up giving you 8 to 10 sacks at the number that they got him for, it's a pretty good deal. Luvu, same thing. The numbers in the first year, not much cap exposure. It goes up, though, to over $10 million after the next couple of years. So he has to turn out to be pretty good for them to warrant this in year 2. I love his speed, plays with a tremendous amount of aggression. I assume we weren't going after Patrick Queen because I thought the number would be a little too high. But of the other ones that were available, and there were a lot of linebackers that were available, he was the one I thought, yeah, take a shot on him, go get him.
Right.
So he's the one I'm actually excited about because it's a definitive need behind that line. They've needed a linebacker badly here.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, offense. We talked about Marcus Mariota. It makes a lot of sense that they went and got a veteran. Is he a high-level backup? I don't think so at this stage of his career. If you get into an air raid, I think you're in trouble with that.
Correct.
If they run an offense where there's a lot of motion and a lot of sprint outs and a lot of misdirection, I think he's a great backup for that. And maybe that's what we're priming for because, wink, wink, guess who the number 2 pick is going to be? Mr. Misdirection can run, all that type of stuff.
Yep.
So it's a possibility that that's what they're priming for. I don't want to go that far. I know everyone keeps laying the groundwork that signing Mariota means they're drafting Daniels. I'm not there yet, but I see the link to all that.
If you want to link that, you could also link it as they're getting him because they're going to trade Howell because they could draft Drake May. I'm just saying if we're going down this road, like you have to unpack it from every angle.
I thought all along, no matter what, they have to get a veteran quarterback.
Yes,
here.
yeah, for sure.
So they got one. They got one who's been a Heisman Trophy winner, who's been a high pick, who's gone through the rumor mills and all of the fame and all the expectations and is still here to survive and play in the NFL after not living up to what everybody's expectations were. I like having that person in the room.
For sure.
He also knows Brian Johnson. He worked with him last year. I like having that person in the room. If he ends up playing a lot this year, I'm a little concerned our offense won't be particularly effective, and I think Terry McLaurin will be running a lot of cardio again. But if he doesn't, and he ends up being Brissett for whoever our quarterback is, then he's done his job, and I think that's what he signed up for.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, the other 2 are offensive line, which were, again, massive needs. So I wanted to see if they'd get a center because they needed one.
Yep.
They needed a starting center. They cut Nick Gates, so they totally signaled, we're going to go get one way or the other. With those 2 second-round picks so high, they could project, we're going to take one of the best ones off the board. And in fact, the best one might land to us.
Right.
Or we could go in free agency and just sign one. That's what they did. Biotis grades very well. The Dallas run games are very good for years. He's a player that is mobile, which is, I think, very important in this day and age. You need to have mobile interior offensive linemen. I think Cosme is a clear carryover because he's very athletic and very mobile. So I loved that signing. And the number is about right on where I expected it to be, about $10 million a year.
2 things to unpack on this one. He's really durable. I think I saw he started like almost every single game.
You'll see that with almost all of these guys. That these guys don't miss time either. They're not taking a shot on a guy who's been injured a lot or anything like that.
And then I saw some people react late last night, not like harshly, but that because you and I talked about this at the end of the year. Like Stromberg kind of came on at the end of last year that he actually looked pretty solid, right? What my argument is, if you're having a rookie quarterback back there, you do not want a second-year center.
100%.
So I think
who hasn't played.
This is right.
100%.
So I think this is
again same thing.
A sure thing.
100%. You had to get a veteran quarterback in here. You had to get a veteran center.
Yes, exactly.
Because you didn't have one on the roster you trusted.
Right.
So they had to go do that. So this makes sense. So they go bring in Biotis, and again, Cowboys connection, so they know him. The head coach knows him. I mean, obviously didn't coach him directly, but knows him.
And to Stromberg, like he could, maybe pivot to guard or,
be the backup center. We don't have a backup center.
Right, correct. Or like I said, competition ain't a bad thing either.
You have to have two centers.
See how it plays out in camp.
Correct.
So, yeah.
He could be the backup center. I have no issue with that. And you know what? If in 2-3 years he ascends up to where Ron and them thought he would be, well, then Biadasz's contract will run out.
Correct. Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Then the other one is, and this is the one, there's this one on the offensive line was the one that they're just taking a shot on.
Which I like.
Nick
I like
Allegretti.
the shot here. That
they obviously needed interior offensive linemen badly.
Yep.
This tells you everything you need to know about Sadiq Charles. They were not in any... They have no desire to re-sign him.
I was out on that experiment anyways.
I think he's been a little too inconsistent.
Yes.
It's unfortunate because when he's on his game, he's everything they said he was. He's a monster. He's really physical and very tough and very strong. Unfortunately, it's game to game, week to week, which one are you going to get with him? He's also had a lot of injuries that he's dealt through.
Yeah.
So they moved on. I don't blame him. This guy hasn't started very much. He played with the Chiefs, but he was a primary backup. You'll recall a couple of years ago, they spent a ton of money on their offensive line. Joe Tooney, the Creed Humphrey, they spent a lot of money on their offensive line. Like the year that they went out in the Super Bowl, they went and spent a lot of money to protect Mahomes. That's where they spent all their money. So he was a primary backup. Then he got a chance to play in the playoffs, and he was great.
Yep.
So I don't like to go on short samples, but it was there. He looks mobile, and they got him at a price where they're taking a shot at him.
Yep.
I mean, look at these other guards that got this, 10, 15, 20 million a year in the case of Robert Hunt. They got him for $5 million a year. So this one is a low risk, high reward. I don't think they promise him anything. Right now, he'd be the starter at left guard, clearly. Will he end up being the starter at left guard? Let's let camp play out because he hasn't won a job in Kansas City yet, but they're not paying him like a guy who's going to be a starter, so he's going to have to earn it. This is the low risk, high reward one at a need position. Home run.
Yeah.
I think home run.
Yeah.
I don't know that. He hasn't played yet. But I do think from a signing standpoint, they didn't extend themselves here. They just went, we think you could be a really good starting guard. We're going to give you a shot to do it at a price because you haven't done it before. Prove it here. He's going to get a chance to do it. And if he turns out to be what they think he is, they got a crazy deal on him. And if he turns out to not, they can get out of it and it's no big whoop.
It also tells me, though, that Peters, while he was introduced here, he, of course, was watching, those playoff games, and especially one against his former club. I always like that signing, too. When you're coming from somewhere else and you sign the guy that was playing against the one that you constructed, it tells me that he's seeing the right things anyways. I've said the same thing with kind of like Jaden Daniels. I'm all about momentum in careers. And to start in the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, and then that's all you're getting, that's momentum, and he's going to be motivated out of camp as well. So that's my favorite signing out of the last 24 hours.
Then the last one is Austin Eckler, which I'm surprised and not surprised. Once Gibson left, you go, okay, well, they need another running back.
Yeah.
He obviously played for Anthony Lynn.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense. He was at his best when he played for Anthony Lynn.
Yep.
This past year, I'll get to it in a second, the 2 years prior, he had at least 200 carries in those. Never got over 1,000 yards, but about 4.5 a carry. That's average for a good running back.
Yep.
It's not above average, it's average. He also had a ton of catches, so he's outstanding out of the backfield. And for fantasy performers, they love him because he had a penchant for scoring a bazillion touchdowns, which is something that we've had an issue with. He's a closer for you. Whether it's on the ground or through the air, he just has a knack to score. Now, last year happened. He's also 8 years into the league. He's a running back.
Yep.
He was used heavily in those 2 years where he blew up and became the fantasy star and was a top 5 pick in fantasy because he kept scoring so many touchdowns.
Yeah.
Last year, week 1, he got hurt. And after that, he missed a few games. And he didn't really look the same.
Yeah.
I'll be very interested because he's very media savvy. You're going to love interviews with him.
That's what I've heard, yep.
I want to hear from him, what happened? How much did it marginalize you? Are you better now? Which he's going to tell me he is. And what do you think he got? Because the question is off of last year, what's he got in the tank?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, now, nobody is asking him, I don't think. I don't think they're asking him to be the primary workhorse running back. We got that, in my opinion, right? We don't know how Kingsbury feels about Brian Robinson yet. We're going to find out. But in my opinion, we have a dual running back situation. And if you're going in between the tackles in most series, I'll take B-Rob, although Eckler's very good at it. It's not like he's not. The question here is, does he have much left in the tank is really the question. And if he doesn't, well, once again, they're in a deal they can get out of after 1 year. It's not a big deal. They're only paying him like $4 million. This is a total, let's take a shot on a pro who's been very good at scoring touchdowns, who we're not going to ask like LA did to be the primary back. We're going to ask him to share the load with somebody. Maybe he's a red zone threat for sure. And then he'll probably get a few series on his own. This is let's take a shot. We need a secondary running back. We get a veteran who's done it at a very, very, very high level. Anthony Lynn knows him. Let's take a shot on him. And again, like all of these, the price is right.
Yep. Right.
If we've learned anything here in the first couple of days, and we don't know because the reality is, as I looked at free agency, I knew they had to sign people because they have just too many holes. But there was no swing for the fences person out there for them for the holes that they had because that's just how free agency fell. You'll notice they haven't signed a tackle yet because there's no Trent Williams available.
Right.
They need one desperately,
sure.
like undoubtedly need one, but there isn't one of that level to go throw the money at. And in all of these cases, Armstrong they paid relatively handsomely, but not above what he should get. Luvu they paid handsomely, but not above what he should get. All of these other players basically got market deals or right around market deals.
Right.
And all of them are relatively short term, meaning if they miss on any of them, they can move on from it. It doesn't affect them down the road. And it gives you a sign that they are living up to what they said initially. We actually are going to build through the draft.
That's right.
But this roster needed a correction badly, which is why we're spending to fill roster spots.
Outside of tackle, like I said, what this does is it's roster flexibility. They're not going to feel forced to grab one of the positions that they're weak in. They've solidified almost every position.
They have to sign a tackle.
Yeah, right.
Right. I think they need to draft one too, but they have to sign one. So here's what's left over the next couple of days and in weeks as well.
Yeah.
One, tackle. It's happening in free agency one way or the other. Will it be a primary starter? I don't know.
Right.
Who is that person, right? Two, corner. They haven't re-signed Kendall Fuller. I think they need a third corner in here. Bad. This is going to really depend. How do you feel about Forbes in year two off of year one? How do you feel about St. Juice off of last year?
Right.
I think they need to get a veteran, which is why I've been kind of like, this screams go get Stephon Gilmore. You know him, bridge him for a year or two. He's he's a reliable corner who can go up against number one receivers. This division has A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and CeeDee Lamb in it. Like, you have to go get a corner. Like, that has to happen. 3 is third wide receiver, which I don't think is that high on the priority list, and I think they'll be able to go get one. And I bet Kingsbury will be like, I like this guy, I like that guy, bring him in.
Right.
And 4 is safety. Cam Curl is gone. I like Quan Martin and Derek Forrest. The depth isn't quite there now that Cam isn't there. Do you bring Cam back or do you find somebody else? It's a deep pool of safeties. Can you get a deal on a short term for one of them as well? All of those things I think are still going to happen, whether it's over the next 24, 48 hours or over the weeks to come before we even get to the draft. And then when we get to the draft, we could talk about what the holes really are and what those 2 second-round picks could be used for. And more and more and more and more, now that tackle remains such a clear void, it is screaming to me one of 2 things. The one I don't think they'll do, trade down from 2 and take a tackle high.
Yep.
I think they're taking a quarterback. Or 2, if the tackle pool is so deep, sit with that second-round pick that's high and take them, or package those 2 second-round picks, move back up into the teens into the first round, and take a tackle prospect. And that's what I think will happen. All right, be right back. Bram Watson Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Here's Albert Breer. Fascinating situation with Calvin Ridley. Per terms of the Falcons-Jaguars trade, Atlanta gets a 2 if Ridley re-signs with the Jaguars before Wednesday at 4, and a 3 if he re-signs thereafter. So the Jags are motivated to wait, and Ridley's camp has the extra time to drive the number up in the hopes of getting someone else interested in him. But they clearly aren't going to do anything until after 4 p.m. tomorrow, because why would they unless Ridley makes them do it? So if he wants to stay in Jacksonville and is happy with the number, then he just has to wait 24 hours.
So the funny part about that is the report this morning was that the Patriots actually want him, but then it said that Ridley wants to go back to Jacksonville.
So he has to wait this out, so they give a lower pick back to Atlanta.
I wonder if there's any kind of
They're
case.
probably telling him that.
I wonder if there's any kind of case there for the Falcons to be like, if he wants to go back there.
Can't make him sign.
Yeah, I know. Or you can't make them sign him either, I guess. Yeah, all right, fair enough. That's kind of a dumb incentive. I would have just said in general if he re-signed.
Let's see. The nobody likes Justin Fields thing is starting. Mm-hmm. Dan Graziano said it on Get Up today. Yep. Said, what I'm hearing is everybody thinks he's a backup or they actually thought Gardner Minshew's better than him, et cetera. It's stuff like that.
Yep,
Sam Darnold, Gardner Minshew, all that stuff. And, well, at least it's played out where those guys have actually signed. And Darnold right now would be the starter in Minnesota, and Minshew right now would be the starter in Vegas. So maybe that's true.
That's right.
Maybe. And then, let's see. Ian Rappaport saying similar. Actually, Ian Rappaport was. I'm going to play that in a minute. Okay. Let's play Schefter first. Let me start with this part on Justin Fields, which is this narrative now that they're putting through the insiders that nobody thinks he's that good. Right? So here's Schefter.
What do these quarterback moves mean for interest in Justin Fields specifically?
Well, listen, Justin Fields was connected to Atlanta. Never happened. They went and signed Kirk Cousins. He was connected to Pittsburgh. They land Russell Wilson. He was connected to Las Vegas. They went with Gardner Minshew. So all the places that have come up in connection to Justin Fields have looked to other places. What's amazing to me about this is that Justin Fields is due to make $2.7 million this upcoming season. So there are teams out there that would rather pay all these other quarterbacks than Justin Fields. And so now he's sitting there, and it doesn't look like there's a starting job out there at this particular moment. And so the teams that are looking at him would be looking at him as a backup. And would Chicago then get the value that it wants? And what does Chicago do about that? This right now is an ongoing situation. It reminds me a little bit, in a certain way, of Lamar Jackson last year. Lamar becomes a free agent. We're saying, well, he fits in Washington. They don't make a move. He fits in Atlanta. They don't make a move. He fits in so many places. None of them make moves. Similar conversation with Justin Fields this year. And here he is back in Chicago. And the Bears will have to wait to see what opportunities arise. But it certainly doesn't seem right now like anything is imminent with Justin Fields.
Okay. All right. Let me get
It's true.
I can't believe Schefter said it.
Yeah, I know.
You know better.
Yeah.
For the 8,000th time. First off, if you wanted Lamar Jackson, you had to give him $200 million. You don't have to give Justin Fields that. That's one massive difference. Two, if you want to trade for Justin Fields, you don't have to give up 2 first-round picks, which is what the Ravens might have taken because all they had to do was match the offer, and then you don't get him at all. These two scenarios are not the same and not close. But let's get past that part.
Right.
Let's get to the other part, which is the people are telling the insiders to put it out there that we don't think he's good. I do not believe this.
Yeah, I don't buy that one. I don't buy it at all.
My eyes don't lie.
That's right. Right.
He is better than Sam Darnold. Give me a break. He's better than Gardner Minshew, who I actually think is a very good backup, low-level starting quarterback. He's better than him. What planet are you on? Give me a break. That's not true. Something else is going on here. You want to play Rappaport?
Yeah, let's do it.
So here's Rappaport. Wait till you hear the pretzel he twists himself in to try to explain what he's hearing about all of this.
Yeah, so here's where what the Bears are doing right now. And I know a lot of talk has been about Justin Fields. This is not a Justin Fields discussion.
Yes, it is.
This is a Caleb Williams #1 overall pick discussion. What the Chicago Bears are committed to doing, and really what they have been committed to doing the entire time, is fully evaluating the quarterbacks who they could take at #1, including Caleb Williams. They were at the Combine. They met with him there. They're going to be in full force at Caleb Williams' Pro Day a week from tomorrow. They're going to have him to the facility to visit with him. They're going to do the full evaluation. And at the point when they are then settled on taking Caleb Williams #1, which we expect, but we don't know for sure because this is too important a decision to just go, yeah, okay, we'll take this guy, we'll trade the other guy. Until all that, they're going to do the full evaluation. When they settle on a quarterback that they are taking #1, and I do expect them to take a quarterback at #1, at that point they will then move to say, where are we going to trade Justin Fields? Might this happen leading up to the draft? Sure, it could. History has shown these trades happen a lot of times leading up, like right before the draft, or sometimes during the draft. Josh Rosen got traded literally during the draft when I believe the Cardinals were on the clock in the second round, if I remember correctly. So that's sort of the timeline for these things. But just because they're not actively shopping him doesn't really mean anything as it pertains to Justin Fields.
Okay, let's get the last part of his statement over with quickly. Josh Rosen stunk. Yeah. Justin Fields doesn't. Why would you compare the two things? Josh Rosen, is he even in the league anymore?
I don't think so.
He was terrible. That's why he got traded at the last minute for kind of nothing. These are not comparable. That's actually offensive. If I'm Justin Fields and I hear that, like, oh, you're comparing me to Josh Rosen now? Really? Did Josh Rosen rush for 1,000 yards in a season like I did? Idiots.
Last from Josh Rosen, he was on the practice squads of the Browns and the Vikings in 2022.
Let's go back to the more important parts of it. Here's what Rappaport is hearing. He's saying now, and this is from the Bears, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. He's giving credit to the Bears, essentially.
Right. So the insiders on ESPN are being told, we don't think he's good.
Right.
That's
exactly.
what the outsiders are saying, not Bears people.
Right.
The Bears people are telling Ian Rappaport, who goes on and says, we haven't been shopping him. That's why haven't gotten an offer.
We're doing our due diligence, is what it sounds like.
But at the same time, and he keeps saying over and over, I do expect them to pick a quarterback at number 1.
Right.
Well, how does any of that make sense? If you're going to if you are determined you're going to pick a quarterback at number 1, and you are, guys, you should have traded Justin Fields a week ago.
Yep.
So what's going on here? Okay. I said this during the combine. They need to trade him now because if they don't, his market will shrink. Because the Falcons, who might have been interested in him, well, they just signed Kirk Cousins. And Pittsburgh, who might have been interested in him, just went and got Russell Wilson. And this is happening now. So there are just less teams. Not no teams, just less teams.
Yeah.
Right? So you've decreased a market that you wanted to have as vibrant as possible, which is why this should have happened before free agency started.
By your own definition, too, though, and this is why people aren't raking the Bears over the coals over this, because the Bears were the ones that said out loud, we'll have this figured out in 2 weeks.
Correct.
We're on week 3, and there hasn't been a peep about it. And in fact, the place that he was rumored to go signed Kirk.
Do you think it's because the outside market doesn't value him, or because they weren't shopping him, or somewhere in the middle, which is what I think it is?
No, I think it's the market.
Oh, I think it's something else.
I think it's the market because what we were throwing around was you at one point said the Steelers could have given up their first-round pick for him.
Yes.
It was never close to that, apparently, so I think they thought they were going to get...
Unless they, as they are trying to say, not shopping him.
Which is BS, because...
I agree that's BS. I think all of this is BS. I think all of it is. I think teams do want to acquire him at a price. Yeah, right. And I think they want to know that Caleb Williams wants to go there, which this is what I think it is.
Your tinfoil hat theory.
I don't even think it's tinfoil hat. They haven't traded him because they don't know for sure that Caleb Williams is going to accept going to Chicago with the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
And that's why they haven't done it yet, because they're scared they're going to trade him and then find out that guy goes, oh, by the way, guys, I don't want to play for you. And then they're in a really, really difficult position. So that's what I don't know this, but that's what I think is going on. It makes no sense that they haven't traded him, and it makes no sense to me that every evaluator in the NFL thinks he stinks. He doesn't.
Right.
Give me a break. He's not better than half of the quarterbacks. Give me a break. Of course he is. He also, here's the other part that's crazy, and this is why you can't compare it to Lamar. On your cap next year, if you trade for him, he makes $2 million.
Right.
What's a better deal than that?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Right.
What 4th round pick are you going to get that's better than that if you don't have a quarterback? So I don't believe the outside noise, and I don't believe this we're not shopping him. This is about Caleb Williams apparently not telling them, if you take me, there will be no issue. 100% in my mind, that's what's happening right now.
He did say out loud he would be fine with it.
I will not push my agenda on anyone, no matter how I feel about it, is what he said in that interview. He wants to go somewhere else. He's trying to tell them that quietly, and they're looking for an out. But they want to take him. Of course they want to take him. So you know what, Bears? Take him. Burrow made a little bit of noise. Remember? His dad went on radio.
No, his dad made noise. He didn't ever make noise.
Bears, if you want him, it's your pick to make. What's he going to do? Not show up?
Right.
That's what they're worried about.
Yeah, well, I mean.
That's what they're worried about. He's going to pull an Eli.
Or
he and his family are going to pull an Eli and say, like they did to the Chargers. I don't care if you draft me. You're going to have to trade me. And then they're going to have to figure out where that is next.